Welcome. You've chosen to be here in this moment, and that choice itself is the beginning of something profound. Tonight is not just another night of sleep. Tonight, you're crossing a threshold into a deeper understanding of who you truly are and what you are capable of creating in your experience of reality. I am here to guide you through the most transformational teaching ever shared about the nature of manifestation and conscious creation. This is the law of assumption, as taught by Neville Goddard, a mystic who understood the mechanics of reality in a way that few have ever grasped. Before we begin this journey together, I want you to find a position of complete comfort. Whether you're lying down or sitting, adjust your body now so that you feel fully supported. Let your arms rest naturally by your sides or on your lap. Allow your legs to uncross if they are crossed, letting them fall open slightly, releasing any tension in your hips and lower back. Feel the surface beneath you holding you completely, taking all the weight of your physical form. You are safe here. You are supported here. You're exactly where you need to be. Now, bring your awareness to your breath. Do not try to change it yet. Simply notice the natural rhythm of air moving in and out of your body. Notice the cool sensation as air enters through your nostrils and the warm sensation as it leaves. Your breath is happening automatically, effortlessly, without any conscious effort from you. This is the first lesson in allowing rather than forcing. Your breath knows what to do. Your body knows what to do. Your subconscious mind knows what to do. Tonight, you are learning to trust that deeper intelligence within you. As you continue to breathe naturally, I want you to begin a very gentle deepening of each breath. Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold that breath gently at the top for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now release the breath slowly through your mouth for a count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And rest with empty lungs for a count of 2. 1, 2. This is one complete cycle. Continue this breathing pattern as I guide you deeper into relaxation. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, release for 6, rest for 2. With each cycle, you're dropping deeper into a state of calm receptivity. Notice now how your body begins to respond to this conscious breathing. Your shoulders might drop slightly away from your ears. Your jaw might unclench, creating a small space between your upper and lower teeth. Your forehead might smooth out, releasing tiny micro-tensions you did not even know you were holding. Your entire face softens like snow melting in the first warmth of spring. Every breath is an invitation to let go a little more, to release a little more, to surrender a little more into this present moment. I want you to bring your awareness now to your feet. Notice your toes, your arches, your heels. Imagine a warm, golden light beginning to glow at the tips of your toes. This light is intelligent. It carries with it a profound sense of peace and deep relaxation. As you breathe, watch this golden light spread slowly up through your feet, into your ankles, warming and relaxing every muscle, every tendon, every cell. The light moves up into your calves, releasing any tightness or tension. Your lower legs become heavy, warm, completely relaxed. The golden light continues upward into your knees, dissolving any stiffness, any holding. Your knees soften and release. The light spreads now into your thighs, those powerful muscles that carry you through your day. Feel them growing heavy and warm as the golden light bathes every fiber in deep relaxation. Your entire lower body from your toes to your hips is now glowing with this peaceful, golden light. You feel heavy, warm, deeply relaxed. Your hips release, your lower back releases, Any tension in your pelvis melts away like ice under a warm sun. You are safe. You are held. You are allowed to completely let go. The golden light moves now into your abdomen, your stomach, your solar plexus. This is where you hold so much tension, so much anxiety, so much trying to control. But tonight you are learning to release control. You are learning to trust. Feel the light warming your belly, releasing any knots, any tightness, any fear. Your breathing deepens naturally as your abdomen relaxes. The light spreads into your chest, into your heart space, into your lungs. Your heart beats steadily, calmly, peacefully. You are alive. You are breathing. You are here. And that is enough. The golden light flows now into your shoulders, those places where you carry the weight of your world. Feel your shoulders dropping, releasing, letting go of all burden. The light travels down your arms, into your elbows, your forearms, your wrists. It flows into your hands, your palms, your fingers. Your arms become heavy and warm, completely relaxed. You could move them if you wanted to, but you have no desire to move. You're content to remain exactly as you are, deepening into this peaceful state. Finally, the golden light rises into your neck, releasing any stiffness. It flows into your jaw, your face, your eyes, your forehead, the crown of your head. Your entire body is now bathed in this warm, golden, peaceful light. You're deeply relaxed yet fully aware. You're present yet peaceful. You're conscious yet calm. This is the perfect state for receiving the teachings that will transform your life. Your conscious mind can rest now. Your subconscious mind is awake, alert, and ready to absorb everything you are about to learn. You are ready. Let us begin. In the early 20th century, a man was born on the small Caribbean island of Barbados. His name was Neville Goddard. He would come to be known simply as Neville. This man would eventually move to New York City, pursue a career in dance and theatre, and then experience a series of mystical revelations that would completely transform his understanding of reality. For over 30 years, Neville taught his message in lecture halls across America, sharing a teaching so radical, so simple, and so powerful that it challenged everything people believed about how life works. Neville taught one central, unwavering principle: your assumptions create your reality, not your wishes, not your hopes, not your desires, not your prayers, your assumptions. What you assume to be true about yourself and your world is what you will experience as your reality. This is not a belief system. This is not positive thinking. This is not wishful imagination. This is a fundamental law of consciousness, as reliable and consistent as the law of gravity. When you truly understand this principle and learn to apply it correctly, you gain the power to consciously create any experience you desire in your life. Most people live their entire lives as victims of circumstance. They believe that reality happens to them, that they are at the mercy of external forces, that their conditions create their state of mind. Neville taught the exact reverse. Your state of mind creates your conditions. Your internal assumptions about yourself and your world determine what you experience externally. If you assume you are poor, you will find evidence of poverty everywhere in your life. If you assume you are unloved, you will experience relationships that confirm that assumption. If you assume you are sick, your body will manifest symptoms that match that belief. Your assumptions are not passive thoughts. They're creative forces actively shaping your experience moment by moment. This teaching stands in direct contrast to what most people understand as the law of attraction. The law of attraction suggests that you attract what you focus on, that like attracts like, that positive thoughts bring positive experiences. While there is some truth in this framework, it is incomplete and often leads to frustration. People try to think positive thoughts while deep down feeling negative emotions. They try to visualize their desires while simultaneously believing those desires are impossible. They try to raise their vibration while their core assumption remains one of lack and limitation. This creates an internal contradiction that prevents manifestation. The law of assumption cuts through all of this confusion with startling clarity. You do not need to attract anything. You do not need to vibrate at a certain frequency. You do not need to do elaborate rituals or techniques. You simply need to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You need to adopt the internal state of being that would be natural if your desire were already a present fact. When you assume something is true, when you accept it as fact in your imagination, when you think from that assumption rather than merely thinking about it, your entire reality reorganizes itself to match that assumption. Neville taught that consciousness is the only reality. Everything you experience in your outer world is a reflection of your inner state of consciousness. Your world is not happening outside of you. It is happening within you, projected outward like a movie playing on a screen. You are not in a world. The world is in you. When you change your consciousness, when you shift your fundamental assumptions about yourself, the world must change to reflect that new inner state. This is not philosophy. This is mechanics. This is how consciousness operates. Consider this carefully as you rest here in deep relaxation. Everything you are currently experiencing in your life is the result of your past assumptions. Your relationships, your finances, your health, your career, your social status, everything has flowed from what you have assumed to be true about yourself and your world. If you do not like what you are experiencing, you do not need to change the outer circumstances. You need to change your inner assumption. When your assumption changes, the outer circumstances must change. They have no choice. They are effects, not causes. This is why Neville emphasized imagination above all else. Your imagination is not a frivolous faculty for daydreaming and fantasy. It is the workshop of creation. It is where you build new assumptions. It is where you try on new states of being. When you imagine yourself as already being the person who has what you desire, when you feel the reality of that imagined state, when you accept it as true, you are creating a new assumption. That assumption will harden into fact in your outer world. The time it takes for this to happen depends entirely on how firmly you hold the assumption, how naturally you wear it, how completely you believe in its reality. Many people make the mistake of trying to manifest from a place of lack. They imagine their desire because they do not have it. This very approach reinforces the assumption of lack. Neville taught that you must imagine from the end. You must assume the wish is already fulfilled. You must feel yourself already being the person who has this thing. You must think from that end state, not about it. When you think from your desire rather than of your desire, you're occupying that state of consciousness. You're assuming its reality, and what you assume must manifest. Tonight, as you rest in this deeply relaxed state, your subconscious mind is highly receptive. It is ready to accept new assumptions. It is ready to release old beliefs that have kept you stuck in unwanted patterns. The teachings you are receiving now are not just information for your conscious mind. They are seeds being planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious. As you sleep tonight, these seeds will take root. They will grow. They will transform your consciousness from within. You're not the same person who began listening to this recording. You are already changing. You're already becoming someone new, someone who understands the power of assumption, someone who knows how to consciously create their reality. The most powerful words you will ever speak are the two words that follow I am. These words are not mere labels or descriptions. They are creative declarations. They are assumptions made manifest in language. When you say I am, you are claiming a state of being. You are defining yourself. You are telling your subconscious mind, your body, and the universe itself who you are. And reality has no choice but to arrange itself to match that declaration. Neville taught that I am is the name of God. In the biblical story of Moses and the burning bush, when Moses asks God for his name, the answer comes back as I am that I am. This is not the name of an external deity sitting on a throne somewhere in the sky. This is the name of consciousness itself. This is the creative power that lives within you. When you say I am, you're invoking the same creative force that spoke the universe into existence. You're claiming your divine nature. You're acknowledging yourself as the creator of your experience. Think about how carelessly most people use these sacred words. They say, I am tired. They say, I am broke. They say, I am sick. They say, I am not good enough. They say, I am unlucky. They say, I am alone. Every one of these statements is an assumption. Every one of these statements is a creative act. And every one of these statements must manifest as experience, because the law of assumption is absolute and impersonal. It does not judge whether your assumption is good or bad, wanted or unwanted. It simply makes real whatever you assume to be true about yourself. Your subconscious mind accepts whatever follows I am as a command. It says, yes, master. You have declared this to be true about yourself. So I will create the conditions and circumstances that match this declaration. You say you are tired, so I will generate fatigue in your body. You say you are broke, so I will create financial lack in your experience. You say you are not good enough, so I will attract situations that confirm your inadequacy. This is not punishment. This is not some cruel cosmic joke. This is simply the law working perfectly, neutrally, consistently. But here is the magnificent truth. If your I am declarations can create unwanted experiences, they can just as easily create wanted experiences. When you consciously choose what follows, I am, when you claim positive states of being, when you declare yourself to be what you wish to be, the law must work in your favor. You say, I am wealthy, and your subconscious begins creating pathways to wealth. You say, I am loved, and love flows into your experience. You say, I am healthy, and your body responds with vitality. You say, I am confident, and confidence becomes your natural state. Neville often told the story of a woman who came to him desperate for help. She was middle-aged, unmarried, and assumed she would remain alone for the rest of her life. She had tried everything to find love, but always met with disappointment. Neville taught her to simply assume she was already married. Every night before sleep, she was to feel the weight of a wedding ring on her finger, to feel herself sleeping next to a loving husband, to assume the feeling of being a happily married woman. She did this faithfully, wearing this assumption like a garment. Within months she met a man, fell in love and married. The outer world conformed perfectly to her inner assumption. This is the power of I am. It is not about lying to yourself or pretending something is true when it is not. It is about understanding that your current reality is just the outpicturing of your past assumptions. If you want a new reality, you must adopt a new assumption. You must claim a new identity. You must declare a new I am. And you must feel it as real, not as a future possibility, but as a present fact. As you rest here now in this peaceful, receptive state, I want you to become aware of the I am statements you have been unconsciously declaring about yourself. Perhaps you have been saying, I am struggling. Perhaps you've been saying, I am not where I want to be. Perhaps you've been saying, I am waiting for things to change. These are assumptions. These are creative declarations, and they are keeping you locked in the very patterns you wish to escape. Tonight, you're going to consciously choose new I am declarations. You're going to try on new assumptions about yourself. You're going to claim new identities. And because you are in this deeply relaxed, highly suggestible state, your subconscious mind will accept these new assumptions far more easily than it would in your normal waking consciousness. This is why Neville recommended doing this work in the drowsy state just before sleep. Your conscious mind's defenses are down. Your logical, doubting mind is quiet. Your subconscious is open and receptive like rich soil ready to receive seeds. I am going to give you a series of I am statements now. You do not need to say them out loud. Simply hear them in my voice and feel them taking root in your consciousness. Feel yourself becoming these declarations. I am powerful. I am creative. I am abundant. I am loved. I am worthy, I am enough, I am successful, I am healthy, I am confident, I am magnetic, I am deserving, I am blessed, I am victorious, I am free, I am whole, I am divine, I am consciousness itself, expressing through this temporary form, creating my reality through the power of my assumptions. Let these declarations settle into the deepest parts of your being. Do not analyze them. Do not question them. Do not doubt them. Simply accept them as you would accept a gift. These are not affirmations you are trying to believe. These are assumptions you are claiming as already true. There is a vast difference. An affirmation is something you repeat in hopes of making it true. An assumption is something you accept as already true. When you assume something, you stop trying to make it happen. You simply allow it to be revealed as already real. Your I am is your point of power. It is where creation begins. Everything in your life flows from what you assume yourself to be. Tonight, you are choosing new assumptions. You are claiming new identities. You're declaring new truths about yourself. And because the law of assumption is absolute, these new declarations must manifest as your lived experience. The outer world must conform to your inner assumption. This is law. This is how reality works. You are beginning to understand. You're beginning to claim your power. You're beginning to consciously create your life through the sacred words, I am. One of the most profound and frequently misunderstood teachings from Neville Goddard is the concept he called living in the end. This simple phrase contains within it the entire secret of manifestation, yet most people completely miss its meaning. They think living in the end means visualizing their desire. They think it means imagining a future where they have what they want. They think it means creating detailed mental pictures of their goals. But this is not what Neville taught. Living in the end means assuming the feeling of the wish already fulfilled, not in the future, but now, in this present moment. Consider the difference carefully. When you visualize your desire, you're thinking of it. You're looking at it from a distance. You're acknowledging its absence. You're saying, I want this, or I hope to have this, or I am trying to manifest this. All of these statements contain the assumption of lack. They confirm that you do not have the thing. They create a perpetual state of wanting rather than having. And what you assume is what you get. If you assume you are someone who wants something, you will continue to be someone who wants it. The wanting will persist. The having will remain forever in the future. Living in the end requires a complete shift in consciousness. Instead of thinking of your desire, you must think from your desire. You must assume you already are the person who has this thing. You must occupy that state of being. You must feel how you would feel, think how you would think, act how you would act if your wish were already a present fact. This is not pretending. This is not lying to yourself. This is assuming a new state of consciousness and allowing your outer world to reflect that new state. Neville often used the example of someone who desires a new home. Most people would visualize the home they want. They would imagine walking through its rooms, admiring its features, enjoying its beauty. But Neville taught that this is thinking of the desire, not from it. To truly live in the end, you must imagine yourself already living in that home. You must feel yourself falling asleep in your new bedroom tonight. You must see the familiar walls around you. You must know with absolute certainty that this is your home, that you already own it, that it is already yours. You're not wishing for it. You're not hoping for it. You're experiencing it as a present reality in your imagination. This distinction is everything. When you live in the end, you are not trying to attract your desire from outside yourself. You are claiming it as already yours in consciousness. And because consciousness is the only reality, because everything in your outer world is just a reflection of your inner state, your assumption must manifest. The outer circumstances must rearrange themselves to match your inner conviction. This is not magic. This is not supernatural. This is the natural operation of consciousness. I want you to think now about something you deeply desire. Do not analyze whether it is possible or how it might happen. Simply choose one thing you truly wish to experience in your life. It might be a relationship, a sum of money, a career opportunity, a state of health, a living situation, anything that would bring you genuine joy and fulfillment. Do you have it in mind? Good. Now, I'm going to guide you to live in the end of that desire right now, in this moment. Imagine it is some time in the future. Your desire has manifested. It is done. It is yours. It is real. You're no longer seeking it, wanting it, trying to get it. You have it. How do you feel? Not how you think you would feel. How do you actually feel right now as you assume this is true? There is a specific sensation that comes with fulfillment. There is a quiet satisfaction, a peaceful knowing, a gentle joy, a sense of completion. Find that feeling now. Do not strain for it. Do not force it. Gently assume it. Let it wash over you like warm water. As you rest in this feeling of fulfillment, notice what changes in your body. Perhaps your breathing becomes easier. Perhaps tension leaves your shoulders. Perhaps a small smile plays at the corners of your mouth. Perhaps you feel lighter, more expansive, more at peace. This is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is what Neville meant by living in the end. You're not imagining having your desire. You're assuming you already have it. You're being the person for whom this desire is a present fact. Now, from this state of already having what you desire, imagine one simple scene that implies fulfillment. Do not create an elaborate fantasy. Simply choose one short, specific scene that would naturally occur after your wish is fulfilled. If your desire is a relationship, perhaps you feel yourself holding hands with your partner. If your desire is financial abundance, perhaps you see a specific bank statement showing the amount you wish to have. If your desire is a new career, perhaps you imagine receiving congratulations from a colleague. Choose one simple scene, make it short, make it specific, make it imply that your desire is already fulfilled. Repeat this scene in your imagination. See it, feel it, hear it if there are sounds. Make it sensory and real. Do not watch yourself in the scene like a movie. Be in the scene. Look out through your own eyes. Experience it from the first-person perspective. Feel the reality of it. Know that it is happening now, not in some distant future. This is the art of living in the end. You are not creating something that will happen. You're experiencing something that already is happening in consciousness. And what is real in consciousness must become real in fact. Neville called this making the future dream a present fact. You are collapsing time. You are bringing your desired future into your present awareness. You're assuming it is already done, and in the realm of consciousness it is done. Your outer world is simply catching up to your inner assumption. This is why you must persist in living in the end. Not because you are trying to make something happen, but because you are remaining faithful to what has already happened in consciousness. You're simply waiting for the reflection to appear in your external circumstances. The feeling is the secret. Neville wrote an entire book with this title. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the key that unlocks manifestation. Not the mental image, not the words you speak, not the actions you take, the feeling. When you can assume the feeling of already being, already having, already experiencing your desire, you have planted the seed. Now you must water that seed with continued assumption. You must live in the end, you must remain faithful to your vision, and in time it must manifest. This is law. There is a profound mystery at the heart of manifestation, a secret so simple that most people overlook it completely. Neville Goddard devoted an entire book to this single principle, calling it, "The feeling is the secret." In those 4 words lies the complete key to conscious creation. Not your thoughts, not your words, not your actions, not your visualizations, the feeling. The feeling is what creates. The feeling is what manifests. The feeling is the bridge between your inner assumption and your outer reality. Most people approach manifestation entirely backward. They believe they must first see the evidence in their outer world before they can feel good about it. They say, "I will feel happy when I have the money," or "I will feel loved when I meet the right person," or "I will feel confident when I achieve success." This is causation in reverse. They are waiting for the effect to produce the cause. They are waiting for the outer world to change before they change their inner state. And so they wait forever, trapped in a loop of seeking but never finding. Neville taught that you must feel first. You must generate the feeling of the wish, fulfilled before there is any evidence in your physical reality. You must feel wealthy before you have money. You must feel loved before you meet anyone. You must feel confident before you achieve anything. Your feeling is the cause. The outer manifestation is the effect. When you reverse this order, when you wait for conditions to make you feel a certain way, you give your power away to circumstances. You become a victim rather than a creator. But what exactly is this feeling Neville spoke of so often? It is not emotional excitement or temporary enthusiasm. It is not forced positive emotion or artificial happiness. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is a deep, quiet, natural sense of satisfaction and completion. It is the peaceful knowing that comes when something is done, finished, already yours. Think about how you feel when you're holding something you own. There is no tension, no striving, no trying. You simply have it. This is the feeling you must cultivate about your desire. Neville often told a story that perfectly illustrates this principle. A man came to him desperately wanting to sell his house. The house had been on the market for months with no offers. The man was stressed, anxious, constantly checking for news from his realtor, feeling the pressure of carrying 2 mortgages. Neville told him to stop trying to sell the house. Instead, every night before sleep, he was to imagine himself in his new home, sleeping in his new bedroom, knowing the old house was sold, not trying to sell it, not hoping it would sell, simply assuming it was already sold and done. The man did this faithfully. Each night he assumed the feeling of living in his new home with the old house already sold behind him. He felt the relief. He felt the satisfaction. He felt the completion. Within days he received a full price offer, out of nowhere from a buyer who had not even been working with his realtor. The sale went through smoothly and quickly. The man had not taken any new action. He had not changed anything externally. He had simply changed his feeling, his assumption, his inner state, and the outer world reorganized itself to match that inner change. This is the power of feeling. Your feelings are not reactions to circumstances. Your feelings are creative causes that produce circumstances. When you feel poor, you create poverty. When you feel sick, you create illness. When you feel rejected, you create rejection. But when you feel wealthy, you create wealth. When you feel healthy, you create health. When you feel loved, you create love. It is absolute law. What you feel is what you create. Right now, in this deeply relaxed state, you have extraordinary access to your feeling nature. Your defenses are down. Your analytical mind is quiet. You can generate feelings far more easily than you can in your normal waking state. This is the perfect time to practice assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Think again about that desire you identified earlier, the thing you truly want to experience in your life. You've already imagined living in the end of that desire. Now I want you to focus entirely on the feeling. Let go of the mental pictures. Let go of the details. Let go of trying to see anything at all. Simply ask yourself this question. How would I feel right now if my desire were already a present fact? Not how would I feel later when it happens. How would I feel right now in this moment if it were already true? Drop down into your body. Feel into your chest, your heart, your stomach. What sensation is there when you assume your wish is already fulfilled? For some people, it feels like warm honey spreading through their chest. For others, it feels like a gentle expanding, as if their heart is opening. Some feel a quiet smile emerging from deep within. Some feel a relaxation, a letting go, a release of tension they didn't know they were holding. Some simply feel peaceful, calm, satisfied, complete. There is no right or wrong feeling. Your feeling will be unique to you and your desire. The key is to find it, to identify it, to recognize it, and then to dwell in it. Neville taught that you must steep yourself in this feeling, marinate in it, soak in it like a bath. Do not touch it lightly and move on. Rest in it, remain in it. Let it saturate every cell of your being. The longer you can sustain the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the more powerful your assumption becomes. The more deeply you feel it, the faster it manifests. The feeling is not a means to an end. The feeling is the end. When you feel your wish fulfilled, it is fulfilled in consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. Many people make the mistake of trying to hold a feeling all day long. This creates strain and resistance. Neville never taught this. He taught that you should assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, particularly in the drowsy state before sleep, and then release it completely. Do not monitor yourself constantly to see if you are feeling it. Do not worry if the feeling fades during your busy day. Simply return to it each night. Assume it deeply before sleep. Let your subconscious work with it through the night. This is enough. This is how the seed is planted and watered. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, you're going to fall asleep in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You are not going to fall asleep hoping for your desire. You are not going to fall asleep wanting your desire. You're going to fall asleep as the person for whom this desire is already a present fact. You're going to feel what they feel. You're going to rest in the quiet satisfaction of completion. And as you sleep, your subconscious mind will accept this assumption as true. It will begin rearranging your reality to match this inner state. The feeling is the secret, and you are learning to feel. There is a critical distinction that separates those who successfully manifest from those who struggle endlessly with techniques that never seem to work. This distinction is the difference between assumption and affirmation. Most people confuse these two completely different approaches to manifestation. They use them interchangeably, not understanding that one is a powerful creative force while the other is often a futile exercise in self-deception. Tonight, you're going to understand this difference so clearly that you will never approach manifestation the same way again. An affirmation is a statement you repeat to yourself, hoping to convince yourself it is true. You say, "I am wealthy," while feeling poor. You say, "I am confident," while feeling insecure. You say, "I am loved," while feeling alone. There is a gap between the words you're speaking and the state you're actually occupying. You're trying to bridge that gap through repetition, through force of will, through sheer determination. You're essentially arguing with your current reality, trying to talk yourself into believing something different. This approach rarely works because your subconscious mind is not fooled by words. It responds to feeling, to conviction, to genuine belief. When you affirm something you do not actually believe, your subconscious hears the underlying doubt. It registers the contradiction. It notes the gap between what you are saying and what you are feeling. And because feeling is the creative force, not words, your manifestation remains blocked by your true inner state. Neville never taught affirmations in this sense. He taught assumptions. An assumption is not something you are trying to believe. An assumption is something you accept as already true. You do not argue for it. You do not defend it. You do not try to convince yourself of it. You simply take it as fact and move forward from that premise. When you assume something, you stop trying to make it true. You accept that it is already true, and you allow your experience to reflect that acceptance. Consider how you live from your current assumptions every day without even thinking about them. You assume the sun will rise tomorrow. You do not need to affirm this. You do not need to repeat the sun will rise over and over. You simply know it will happen and you plan your day accordingly. You assume that when you sit in a chair it will hold you. You do not need to affirm the chair's stability. You simply sit down with complete confidence. These are assumptions. They are accepted facts that you live from without question. Neville taught that you must approach your desires with this same quality of acceptance. You must assume they are already true in consciousness. Not that they will become true. Not that you hope they are true. That they are true now. When you truly assume something, there is no effort, no strain, no trying. There is simply a quiet knowing, a natural acceptance, a state of being that flows from that assumption. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine someone wants to manifest financial abundance. If they use affirmations, they might repeat, "I am rich, I am wealthy, money flows to me easily," hundreds of times a day. But underneath those words, they feel poor. They worry about bills. They check their bank account anxiously. They feel stressed about money. The affirmations are just noise on top of their true assumption of lack. Nothing changes. Now imagine that same person using the law of assumption. They do not repeat any affirmations. Instead, they assume the state of being wealthy. They ask themselves, how would I feel if I already had abundant wealth? They find that feeling of security, of freedom, of generosity, of ease. They occupy that state. They think from that state. When they consider a purchase, they think from wealth, not from poverty. When they plan their future, they think from abundance, not from lack. They have assumed a new identity, and they live from that assumption naturally. The shift is internal. It is a shift in consciousness, not in behavior or words. And because consciousness is the only reality, because your outer world must conform to your inner state, their financial reality begins to change. Opportunities appear. Money comes from unexpected sources. Their career advances. Debts resolve. The outer manifestation matches the inner assumption. This is not wishful thinking. This is the mechanics of creation. As you rest here now, I want you to examine your own relationship with manifestation. Have you been using affirmations, trying to convince yourself of something you do not truly believe? Have you been repeating words while feeling the opposite? Have you been trying to force change through mental effort and repetition? If so, tonight is the night you release that approach. Tonight, you learn to assume instead of affirm. To assume your desire is fulfilled, you do not need any words at all. You simply need to occupy the state of already having it. You need to feel what it feels like to be that person. You need to think from that end rather than of that end. This is an internal shift, a change in your sense of self, a new identity that you wear naturally like comfortable clothing. Here is the practice. Think of one thing you've been affirming, one statement you've been repeating to yourself, trying to make it true. Now, instead of saying those words, simply ask yourself this question. If this were already true, if this were already a present fact in my life, how would I feel right now? Find that feeling. That is your assumption. That is the state you must occupy. You do not need to repeat any words. You simply need to dwell in that feeling, return to it often, especially before sleep, and allow it to become your natural state. Neville taught that when you assume correctly, there is no sense of effort or strain. You're not trying to get anything. You're not working toward anything. You have already arrived in consciousness. You're simply waiting for your outer world to catch up with your inner conviction. This creates a completely different energy. There is peace instead of desperation. There is confidence instead of doubt. There is knowing instead of hoping. The difference between affirmation and assumption is the difference between trying and being. When you affirm, you're trying to become. When you assume, you're simply being. You have claimed a new identity. You have adopted a new state of consciousness. You are no longer seeking what you desire. You are experiencing it now in imagination, which is the true reality. And what is real in imagination must become real in fact. This is the promise. This is the law. This is how you create consciously. Tonight you are releasing the need to affirm. You're releasing the need to repeat empty words. You're embracing the power of assumption. You're learning to occupy your desired state, to live from your wish fulfilled, to be the person who already has what you seek. This is not pretending. This is not lying. This is shifting your consciousness to a new assumption. And in that shift, everything changes. You're no longer the same person you were when you began this journey. You're becoming someone who knows how to assume. someone who understands the difference between trying and being, someone who creates reality through the power of consciousness itself. In the biblical story of creation, God creates the world in 6 days and rests on the 7th day. Most people read this as a literal story about the creation of the physical universe. Neville Goddard taught that this story is actually about the process of manifestation. The 6 days represent the time you spend in creative imagination, assuming your wish fulfilled. The 7th day, the Sabbath, represents the rest that must follow assumption. This rest is not physical rest, it is mental rest. It is the cessation of effort, the release of control, the trust that allows creation to unfold. This teaching is perhaps the most challenging for modern minds to grasp. We live in a culture that glorifies hustle, effort, constant doing, and relentless pursuit. We are taught that if we want something, we must chase it, work for it, force it to happen through sheer determination. The idea of resting, of doing nothing, of simply allowing feels lazy or irresponsible. Yet Neville taught that this rest is absolutely essential to manifestation. Without the Sabbath, without the mental rest, your assumption cannot harden into fact. Consider what happens when you plant a seed in soil. You place the seed in the ground, you water it, you ensure it has sunlight, and then you must leave it alone. You must trust the process. If you dig up the seed every day to check if it is growing, you will kill it. The seed needs darkness, silence, undisturbed time in the soil to germinate and grow. Your assumptions work exactly the same way. After you assume your wish fulfilled, after you feel it real in imagination, you must release it into the darkness of your subconscious and trust that it is growing. The Sabbath rest means you stop trying to make your desire happen. You stop checking for evidence. You stop worrying about how it will manifest. You stop monitoring whether it is working. You stop analyzing every little thing that happens to see if it is a sign. You rest in the knowledge that it is done. You have assumed it in consciousness. You have planted the seed. Now you must let it grow in its own time, in its own way, without interference from your anxious conscious mind. This is where most people fail in their attempts at manifestation. They assume their wish fulfilled for a few moments, or even a few days. They feel it real. They occupy the state, but then they cannot let it go. They wake up the next morning checking to see if anything has changed. They look for evidence in their outer world. When they do not see immediate results, doubt creeps in. They think, it is not working, or I must be doing something wrong, or maybe it is not meant to be. This doubt is the opposite of rest. This doubt is digging up the seed to check if it is growing. Neville taught that after you assume your wish fulfilled, you must drop it completely. You must turn your attention to other things. You must live your life naturally, confident that your assumption is working beneath the surface of consciousness just as surely as a seed is growing beneath the soil. This does not mean you never return to the assumption. It means you do not obsess over it. You do not make it your entire focus. You do not anxiously monitor for results. You assume it, feel it real, and then rest in the knowledge that it is done. The Sabbath rest is an act of faith. It is trusting that consciousness creates reality. It is knowing that what you assume in imagination must manifest in fact, even when you see no evidence yet. It is understanding that there is a time lag between assumption and manifestation, just as there is a time lag between planting and harvest. The farmer does not plant seeds and then stand in the field anxiously staring at the ground, demanding that crops appear immediately. The farmer plants, waters, and then goes about other business, knowing that in due season the harvest will come. This rest is particularly important before sleep. Neville taught that the last thoughts and feelings you have before drifting into sleep are incredibly powerful because they are impressed upon your subconscious mind throughout the night. If you go to sleep worrying about your desire, checking mentally to see if it has manifested, doubting whether it will happen, you're impressing lack and doubt upon your subconscious. But if you go to sleep resting in the assumption of the wish fulfilled, feeling it real, and then releasing it completely into sleep, you are planting the seed in the most fertile soil imaginable. Tonight you are learning the art of the Sabbath. You are learning to rest. You've already done the creative work earlier in this session. You've assumed your wish fulfilled. You've felt it real. You've occupied that state. Now you must learn to release it. You must learn to trust. You must learn to let go of the need to control, to monitor, to force. You must allow your assumption to do its work in the darkness of your subconscious while you rest. Imagine for a moment that you've already received what you desire. It is done. It is yours. It is real. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to try, nothing more to figure out. How would you feel in that moment? You would feel peaceful. You would feel satisfied. You would feel complete. There would be a deep rest in you, a quietness, a sense of it is finished. This is the Sabbath state. This is the rest Neville spoke of. This is the state you are entering now. As you continue to relax here, deeper and deeper into peace, notice how your body responds to this release. Your shoulders drop even further. Your breathing slows and deepens. Your mind becomes quiet and still. This is what it feels like to rest in your assumption. There is no effort. There is no trying. There is just peaceful knowing. You have assumed your wish fulfilled. The seed is planted. Now you rest, trusting completely that it will grow, that it will manifest, that what you have claimed in consciousness must appear in fact. Neville often said, "It is done," not "it will be done," not "I hope it will be done." It is done. When you assume something, it is already done in consciousness. Your outer world is simply the delayed reflection of your inner world. The reflection must come. It has no choice. But you must rest in this knowing. You must celebrate the end before you see it. You must give thanks for the harvest before the crop appears above the soil. This is faith. This is the Sabbath. This is the rest that allows creation. Tonight, as you fall asleep, you're falling asleep in the Sabbath. You're resting completely in the assumption of your wish fulfilled. You're not trying to make anything happen. You're not forcing anything. You're not anxiously checking for results. You're simply resting in the deep, peaceful knowing that it is done. Your assumption is a fact in consciousness. And because consciousness is the only reality, your assumption must manifest. There is nothing more to do. It is finished. Rest now. Rest deeply. Rest completely. Let the Sabbath do its perfect work in you while you sleep. One of Neville Goddard's most powerful and practical techniques is called revision. This is a method of changing your past in imagination in order to change your future in fact. When most people first hear this concept, they think it sounds impossible or even absurd. How can you change the past? What has happened has happened. The events are fixed. The memories are real. Yet Neville taught, and quantum physics now suggests, that the past is not as fixed as we assume. Your memory of the past is constantly being recreated in this present moment. And by changing your memory, by revising events in your imagination, you can actually change the effects those events have on your current and future reality. Here is how revision works. At the end of each day, before you go to sleep, You review the events of your day in your imagination. When you come to any event that you did not like, any conversation that did not go well, any experience that left you feeling negative emotions, you stop and you revise it. You replay the scene in your imagination, but this time you imagine it unfolding the way you wish it had happened. You see the conversation going smoothly. You feel the interaction being positive. You imagine the outcome you wanted instead of the outcome you got. This is not mere wishful thinking or fantasy. This is a powerful technique for reprogramming your subconscious mind. When something unpleasant happens to you, your subconscious records not just the facts of what occurred, but also your emotional reaction, your interpretation, your assumptions about what it means. These recordings become part of your stored experience, and they influence how you approach similar situations in the future. If you had a difficult conversation with someone and you store that memory with feelings of anger, resentment, or hurt, those feelings will colour all your future interactions with that person. You will unconsciously assume conflict, expect difficulty, and create more of the same. But when you revise the event, when you reimagine it in a positive way, you're essentially overwriting the negative recording in your subconscious. You're choosing a different interpretation, a different emotional response, a different assumption about what the event means. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined event and a physically experienced event. When you revise something in imagination, making it real with sensory detail and feeling, your subconscious accepts this revised version as what actually happened, and your future unfolds from this new assumption rather than the old one. Neville used to tell a story about a woman who had a troubled relationship with her daughter. Every conversation seemed to end in argument. Every visit left both of them upset. The woman came to Neville in desperation, wanting to heal the relationship but seeing no way forward. Neville taught her the revision technique. Each night after a difficult interaction with her daughter, instead of replaying the argument in her mind and feeling upset all over again, she was to revise the entire conversation in her imagination. She was to see herself and her daughter talking lovingly, understanding each other, parting with affection and warmth. She did this faithfully every night for several weeks. At first it felt forced and unnatural. The revised conversation seemed fake compared to the very real argument she had actually experienced, but she persisted. And something remarkable happened. Her daughter began to change. Their next conversation went more smoothly than expected. The next visit was surprisingly pleasant. Within a few months, the entire relationship had transformed. They became close, loving, supportive of each other. The woman had changed nothing in the outer world. She had simply revised her assumptions through imagination, and the outer world conformed to her new inner state. This technique is extraordinarily powerful for healing old wounds, releasing resentment, transforming difficult relationships, and breaking negative patterns. Think about your own life. How many events from your past do you still carry as painful memories? How many conversations do you replay in your mind, wishing they had gone differently? How many experiences have you stored with negative emotions that continue to affect you today? Every single one of these can be revised. You can go back in your imagination to any moment in your entire life and revise it to match what you wish had happened. This does not change the physical facts of what occurred, but it changes your relationship to those facts. It changes what they mean to you. It changes how they affect you. And because your current state of consciousness determines your future experiences, revising your past actually does change your future. You're no longer creating from the assumption of hurt, rejection, failure, or loss. You're creating from the assumption of love, acceptance, success, and wholeness. The past has been redeemed. The slate has been wiped clean. You are free to create anew. Tonight, I want you to practice revision on something from your recent past. Think of one thing that happened today or in the last few days that left you feeling negative emotions. Perhaps someone said something that hurt you. Perhaps you made a mistake that you feel bad about. Perhaps an opportunity fell through. Perhaps you had an argument. Choose one event. Now, in your relaxed imaginative state, I want you to replay that event, but this time, revise it. See the scene unfolded differently. Hear the words you wish had been spoken. Feel the emotions you wish you had felt. Make it sensory and real. Do not just think about it. Actually experience it in your imagination as if it is happening now in this new way. See it clearly. Hear it vividly. Feel it deeply. Let this revised version impress itself upon your consciousness. Accept it as the new truth about what happened. Your subconscious does not know the difference. It simply records what you impress upon it with feeling and conviction. As you revise this event, notice how you feel. The negative emotions associated with the original experience begin to dissolve. They lose their charge. They no longer have power over you. In their place, you feel peace, resolution, completion. This is the gift of revision. You are not changing what happened in the three-dimensional world, but you are changing what it means in the four-dimensional world of consciousness. And consciousness is the true reality. From this new assumption, your future unfolds differently. Neville taught that you can revise anything and everything. You can revise your entire life if you wish. You can go back to childhood wounds and reimagine them healed. You can go back to past failures and reimagine them as successes. You can go back to every moment of pain, regret, shame, or fear and revise it into love, acceptance, joy, and peace. This is not escaping reality. This is creating reality. You are choosing which version of your past will inform your future. You're claiming your power as a conscious creator. Make revision a daily practice. Each night before sleep, review your day. Revise anything that did not match your ideal. Reimagine it the way you wish it had been. Do this consistently, and you will notice something miraculous. Your days will begin to contain fewer and fewer events that need revising. Your life will begin to conform more and more to your ideal. You are training your consciousness to create from intention, rather than react to circumstances. You're becoming the author of your experience rather than a character in someone else's story. This is the power of revision. This is the gift Neville gave to anyone willing to use imagination as the creative force it truly is. Few topics in manifestation generate more controversy and confusion than the question of manifesting a specific person into your life. Can you use the law of assumption to attract a particular individual into a romantic relationship with you? Does this violate free will? Is it ethical? Is it even possible? Neville Goddard addressed this question directly in his lectures, and his answer may surprise you. He taught that you can indeed assume any relationship you desire with any person, and that assumption will manifest. But the mechanics of how this works require deep understanding of what consciousness actually is. First, we must address the question of free will. Most people believe that other people have independent free will that cannot be influenced by your thoughts or assumptions. They believe that each person makes their own choices based on their own consciousness, and that you cannot override another person's will. This seems obvious and true on the surface, but Neville taught something far more radical. He taught that everyone in your life, every person you encounter, every relationship you experience, is a reflection of your own consciousness. They are not separate from you. They are you pushed out. This concept challenges everything we believe about the nature of reality. It suggests that there is only one consciousness, and that consciousness is yours. Every person in your world exists in your consciousness. They are your creation, your assumption, your belief made visible. When you change your assumption about someone, when you change a belief about how they see you or feel about you, they must change in your experience because they are not operating from their own independent consciousness. They are operating from your consciousness of them. This does not mean that people do not have their own consciousness in the absolute sense. It means that in your personal reality, in your unique experience of the world, everyone appears and behaves according to your assumptions about them. You are not controlling them in their world. You are creating them in your world. If you assume someone loves you, that version of them in your experience will love you. If you assume someone rejects you, that version of them will reject you. They are mirrors reflecting back your inner state. Neville often told stories of people who successfully manifested specific person relationships using this principle. One woman desperately wanted to marry a particular man who seemed completely uninterested in her. She came to Neville, and he taught her to assume she was already married to this man. Every night before sleep she felt the ring on her finger. She imagined lying next to her husband. She assumed the feeling of being a happily married woman to this specific person. She did not try to manipulate him. She did not chase him. She simply assumed the end result in her imagination and maintained that assumption with feeling. Within months, circumstances shifted in ways she never could have predicted. The man began noticing her. He started seeking her company. He eventually proposed. They married. She had not violated his free will. She had changed her consciousness of him. And because everyone in your world is your consciousness pushed out, he appeared in her experience exactly as she assumed he would. He was free to choose in his own world, but in her world, he chose her because she assumed he would. This teaching makes some people uncomfortable because it seems to suggest you have power over others. But you do not have power over others. You have power over your own consciousness, and your own consciousness creates your entire experience of reality, including the people in it. When you understand this deeply, you realize that trying to change other people directly is futile. But changing your assumption about other people is infinitely powerful. Change your consciousness and everyone in your world must change to match it. So if you desire a relationship with a specific person, what should you do? Neville taught that you should not focus on changing them. You should focus on changing yourself. Specifically, you should assume that you are the kind of person who is already in the relationship you desire. If you want to be loved by this person, assume you are lovable. If you want to be desired by them, assume you are desirable. If you want to be chosen by them, assume you are worthy of being chosen. The state you assume about yourself determines what you experience from others. Most people approach specific person manifestation from a place of lack. They want the person because they feel incomplete without them. They desire the relationship because they feel unloved. They chase the connection because they feel unworthy of love. This state of lack creates the opposite of what they want. The person remains distant because they are assuming distance. The person remains uninterested because they are assuming lack of interest. Their outer experience perfectly mirrors their inner state. But when you shift your focus from getting the person to becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts what you desire, everything changes. You stop chasing. You stop needing. You stop trying to manipulate outcomes. You simply assume you are loved. You are desired. You are chosen. You occupy that state fully. You feel what it feels like to be the person who has the relationship you want. And from that state, the specific person, or someone even better, shows up in your experience matching your new assumption about yourself. There is an important ethical dimension to this teaching. Neville emphasized that you should never try to harm anyone through your assumptions. You should never assume something negative or painful for another person. This creates a negative state in your own consciousness that will manifest as suffering in your experience. But assuming that someone loves you, that they want to be with you, that they choose you, this is not harmful. This is simply assuming a positive state. If it is truly aligned with highest good, it will manifest. If it is not, something even better will come. The key insight is this: everyone in your life is reflecting your assumptions back to you. If you assume people reject you, you will experience rejection. If you assume people ignore you, you will experience being ignored. If you assume people love you, you will experience love. If you assume you are irresistible, people will find you irresistible. This is not about controlling others. This is about understanding that your consciousness is the creative power and everything in your experience flows from it. Tonight, if there is a specific person you desire a relationship with, I want you to shift your focus entirely. Stop thinking about them as separate from you. Stop trying to figure out how to get them. Instead, assume the state of being the person who is already in the relationship you desire. Feel yourself already loved by them. Feel yourself already chosen. Feel yourself already in the beautiful relationship you imagine. Do not wonder if it will happen or how it will happen. Simply assume it is already true in consciousness, and let that assumption harden into fact in your experience. This same principle applies to all relationships, not just romantic ones. If you want a better relationship with a parent, a child, a friend, a colleague, anyone in your life, change your assumption about that person. Stop seeing them through the lens of past pain or current difficulty. Revise your entire history with them if needed. Assume they are loving, supportive, kind, understanding. Assume you have a beautiful relationship with them. Maintain that assumption consistently and watch them transform before your eyes. They are not changing. You are changing your consciousness of them, and they must appear in your experience according to your assumption. This is law. This is how relationships work when you understand consciousness. Money is perhaps the most common desire people want to manifest, and it is also the area where people struggle most with their assumptions. This is because most people have deep, unconscious beliefs about money that contradict what they consciously desire. They say they want wealth while assuming they are poor. They visualize abundance while feeling lack. They affirm prosperity while believing deep down that money is hard to get, that rich people are greedy, that they do not deserve financial freedom, or that money is somehow spiritual impure. These conflicting assumptions create a state of internal contradiction that prevents manifestation. Neville Goddard taught that wealth is a state of consciousness, not a physical condition. Being wealthy is not about having a certain amount of money in the bank. Being wealthy is about assuming the feeling of wealth, the state of abundance, the consciousness of financial freedom. When you truly assume this state, when you occupy it naturally and effortlessly, money must flow into your experience because your outer world is simply reflecting your inner state. But most people try to get money first, and then they will feel wealthy. This is backward. You must feel wealthy first, and then money will come. What does it mean to assume wealth consciousness? It means thinking, feeling, and acting from the assumption that you are financially abundant. It means making decisions from abundance rather than from lack. It means occupying the mental and emotional state That would be natural if you already had all the money you desire. This is not about spending money you do not have or being irresponsible with finances. This is about shifting your internal assumption from poverty consciousness to wealth consciousness. Neville himself demonstrated this principle powerfully in his own life. He came from very humble beginnings in Barbados and arrived in New York City with almost nothing. For years he struggled financially, working in dance and theatre, barely getting by. But then he learned about the power of assumption. He began assuming he was wealthy. He felt what it would feel like to have financial freedom. He imagined living in a beautiful home, wearing fine clothes, having all his needs met easily and effortlessly. He did not know how this wealth would come, and he did not try to figure it out. He simply assumed the state and maintained it. Within a relatively short time, opportunities began appearing. He was offered lectures that paid well. His teachings attracted students who supported his work. He wrote books that sold successfully. Money flowed to him from multiple unexpected sources. He moved from poverty to prosperity, not through hard work or clever schemes, but through a shift in consciousness. He changed his assumption about himself from poor man to wealthy man, and his external reality reorganized itself to match that assumption. One of Neville's most famous teachings about money involves imagining yourself having a large sum of money physically in your hands. He would tell students to imagine holding a thick stack of bills or a heavy bag of gold coins. Feel the weight of it. Feel the texture. Feel the abundance of it. Feel what it feels like to have more money than you need. Sit in that feeling. Dwell in it. Let it become natural and familiar. Do this often enough with enough feeling, and money must come into your experience. You are assuming wealth. Wealth must manifest. But here is where most people sabotage themselves. They do this exercise and feel the money in their hands for a few minutes. Then they open their eyes and look at their actual bank account and feel disappointed. They see the lack. They feel the bills that need to be paid. They worry about how they will make it through the month. And in that moment, they have completely erased the assumption of wealth and returned to the assumption of poverty. The seed they planted in imagination gets immediately dug up by doubt and worry. Neville taught that you must persist in your assumption despite what your physical senses show you. If your bank account says you are poor but your assumption says you are rich, you must remain faithful to your assumption. You must live from the end. You must think from wealth, not from lack. When bills come, do not panic. Simply know that the money to pay them will come because you are wealthy. When opportunities arise, do not hesitate from fear. Step forward with confidence because you are abundant. Every decision, every thought, every feeling should come from your assumption of wealth, not from your current circumstances. This does not mean ignoring practical reality or being foolish with money. It means changing your internal state while handling your external circumstances responsibly. Pay your bills as you can, work your job, take practical steps. But do all of these things from the assumption of wealth, rather than from the feeling of poverty. Feel abundant while taking out the trash. Feel prosperous while doing humble work. Feel wealthy regardless of your current bank balance. This is living from the end. This is maintaining your assumption despite contrary evidence. Consider the mental state of genuinely wealthy people. They do not obsess over money. They do not constantly check their accounts anxiously. They do not live in fear of loss or lack. They have an easy, natural relationship with money. They know it will be there when they need it. They feel secure, confident, free. This is the state you must assume. even if your current finances look completely different. You're not pretending to be wealthy. You're assuming the consciousness of wealth, and consciousness creates reality. Money is energy. It flows where it is welcomed and valued but not desperately needed. When you assume wealth, when you feel abundant, when you occupy a state of financial freedom, you create an energetic openness that allows money to flow to you easily. But when you assume poverty, when you feel lack, when you constantly worry about money, you create an energetic constriction that blocks the flow. Your assumption is everything. Change your assumption, and you change your financial reality. Tonight, I want you to assume profound wealth. Not as something you will have someday, not as something you hope to manifest, as something you are experiencing now in consciousness. Feel yourself financially free. Feel yourself abundant. Feel yourself having more than enough. Feel the security, the peace, the confidence that comes with wealth. Occupy this state fully. Let it saturate your being. Fall asleep in this assumption. Let your subconscious mind work with this throughout the night. You are not poor. You never were poor. Poverty was just an assumption you held. Tonight you are assuming wealth, and wealth must manifest because you are consciousness itself, creating your reality through your assumptions. You are wealthy now. Accept it, claim it, live from it. It is done. Your body is not separate from your consciousness. It is not an independent machine operating according to purely biological laws beyond your control. Your body is consciousness made visible. It is your assumptions about yourself manifested in physical form. Every cell in your body responds to your beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings, your imagination. When you understand this profound truth, you realize that you have far more power over your physical health than you ever imagined. You can use the law of assumption to heal your body, to create vitality, to reverse conditions that seem permanent, to experience radiant health regardless of your current physical state. Neville Goddard taught and demonstrated this principle throughout his life. He shared numerous stories of people who healed serious illnesses, chronic conditions, and physical limitations through changing their assumptions. He understood that disease is not something that attacks you from outside. Disease is a manifestation of an inner state of consciousness. When you assume you are sick, when you identify with illness, when you believe in the reality of disease more than the reality of health, your body must manifest that assumption. But when you assume perfect health, when you identify with wellness, when you believe in your body's natural state of wholeness, healing must occur. The medical establishment has begun to recognize this connection through the study of the placebo effect. When people believe they are receiving powerful healing treatment, even if they are actually receiving sugar pills with no medicinal value, their bodies often heal, their symptoms disappear, their conditions improve. The belief alone creates the healing. This is not foolishness or self-deception. This is the law of assumption at work. The person assumes they are being healed, feels that assumption as real, and their body responds by actually healing. The assumption becomes fact. But the placebo effect is just the beginning. Neville taught that you do not need any external treatment, any pill, any procedure to heal. You simply need to assume health. You need to feel yourself as perfectly healthy. You need to imagine your body functioning optimally. You need to occupy the consciousness of a healthy person rather than a sick person. When you shift your assumption from illness to wellness, your body must follow. It has no choice. It is the outpicturing of your consciousness. Consider how powerfully your assumptions about your body affect your experience. If you assume you are weak, your body feels weak. If you assume you are tired, fatigue overwhelms you. If you assume you are old, you age rapidly. If you assume you are getting sick, symptoms appear. But if you assume you are strong, energy flows through you. If you assume you are youthful, vitality increases. If you assume you are healthy, your body heals itself. Every assumption about your physical form shapes how you experience that form, Neville told. The story of a man who'd been told by doctors that he had an incurable disease and would be dead within months. The man came to Neville desperate for help. Neville taught him to completely ignore the medical diagnosis. He was to assume perfect health. Every morning and evening he was to feel his body as strong, healthy, vibrant, fully healed. He was not to identify with the disease. He was not to think of himself as a sick man trying to get well. He was to think of himself as a healthy man, period. The diagnosis was just an assumption. Health was a different assumption. He needed to choose which assumption to accept as real. The man did this faithfully. He refused to accept the identity of someone dying from disease. He assumed health with feeling and conviction. He imagined himself years in the future, alive and thriving. He felt gratitude for his healthy body. He maintained this assumption despite the symptoms he still experienced, despite the grim predictions of doctors, despite the fear that arose in moments of doubt. And remarkably, against all medical expectation, he healed. The disease went into remission. His body recovered. He lived many years beyond the predicted time of death. He had not changed the disease. He had changed his assumption, and his body conformed to his new assumption. This is not to say that medical treatment is wrong, or that you should ignore doctors. Medical care has its place and can be valuable. But your assumption is always the primary creative force. You can receive medical treatment while assuming health. You can take medicine while identifying as a healthy person who is becoming even healthier. The treatment may be the bridge of incidents through which your assumption manifests, or healing may come in some completely unexpected way. The how does not matter. The assumption is what creates the result. Many people sabotage their own healing by constantly affirming their illness. They tell everyone about their symptoms. They research their condition obsessively. They join support groups where everyone discusses their shared disease. They wear their diagnosis like an identity badge. Every conversation reinforces their assumption of illness. Every thought deepens the consciousness of disease. And so the condition persists or worsens because they are creating it through their assumption. They are identifying with sickness rather than health. To heal using the law of assumption, you must do the opposite. You must refuse to identify with illness. When someone asks how you are, do not recite your symptoms. When your mind wants to obsess about your condition, redirect it to health. When fear arises about your body, replace it with confidence in your body's innate wisdom and healing power. See yourself as healthy. Feel yourself as healthy. Think from health, not from disease. Make health your assumption regardless of current symptoms. Imagine now that your body is perfect, completely healed, fully vital, radiating health and energy. How would you feel in a perfectly healthy body? Find that feeling. Not the feeling you think you should feel, but the actual sensation in your body right now as you assume perfect health. Perhaps it is lightness. Perhaps it is strength. Perhaps it is a warm glow of well-being. Perhaps it is simply the absence of pain or discomfort. Whatever it is, find it and dwell in it. This is your assumption of health. This is the state you must occupy. Your body wants to be healthy. It is designed for health. Every cell carries within it the blueprint for perfect function. but your assumptions can override this natural state. If you assume illness, your body obeys. If you assume aging and decline, your body complies. But if you assume vibrant health, youthful vitality, perfect function, your body responds in kind. You're not at the mercy of genetics, environment, or age. You are consciousness creating form. Your assumptions determine what form your body takes. Tonight, you are assuming perfect health. Not as something you hope to achieve, not as something you are working toward, as something you are experiencing now in consciousness. Your body is already perfect in consciousness. Your physical form is simply catching up to your assumption. Rest in this knowing. Feel your body as healthy. See every cell functioning optimally. Imagine vitality flowing through every system. You're not sick. You never were sick. Illness was just an assumption. Tonight you assume health. And health must manifest because consciousness creates reality. Your body is perfect. Accept it. Claim it. Feel it. It is done. One of the questions people ask most frequently when learning about the law of assumption is, how will my desire manifest? Through what means will it come? What path will reality take to deliver what I have assumed? Neville Goddard taught that this is the wrong question. You should never concern yourself with the how. Your job is to assume the end. The how is none of your business. That is handled by something Neville called the bridge of incidents. This is the series of events, opportunities, and circumstances that naturally unfold to bring your assumption into physical manifestation. The bridge of incidents is the way your three-dimensional world reorganizes itself to match your four-dimensional assumption. When you assume something in consciousness, you are claiming it in the dimension of imagination, which Neville taught is the true reality. Your physical world is just the shadow, the reflection, the time-delayed outpicturing of that inner reality. The bridge of incidents is how the shadow catches up to the substance. It is how your outer world conforms to your inner state, and it happens automatically, perfectly, without any need for you to figure it out or force it. This is one of the most liberating teachings Neville offered. Most people exhaust themselves trying to figure out how to make their desires happen. They plan, strategize, manipulate, control, force. They think they need to build the bridge themselves, laying each plank carefully, making sure the path from here to there is clear and logical. But Neville taught that this is futile and unnecessary. You do not build the bridge. The bridge builds itself. Your job is simply to assume the end and allow the means to appear. Consider a practical example. Imagine someone assumes they have received a $10,000 inheritance. They do not know how this will happen. They do not have a wealthy relative they expect to die. They have no logical way to receive this money. But they assume it anyway. They feel the reality of receiving this exact amount. They imagine opening the letter, seeing the check, depositing the money, feeling the abundance. They assume the end result without concerning themselves with the how. What happens next might seem magical, but is simply the law working. A series of seemingly unrelated incidents begins to unfold. Perhaps they meet someone at a coffee shop who mentions an investment opportunity. That conversation leads to another connection. That connection leads to a small business venture. That venture leads to unexpected profit. And the profit amounts to exactly $10,000. Each incident seemed random and unconnected, but together they formed a perfect bridge from assumption to manifestation. The person did not plan any of it. They simply assumed the end and allowed the bridge to build itself. Or consider another example. Someone assumes they are living in a beautiful home by the ocean. They have no idea how they could afford such a place. They have no plan to make it happen. but they assume it anyway. They feel themselves waking up to the sound of waves. They imagine walking on the beach outside their door. They occupy the consciousness of someone who lives in this home, and then the bridge of incidents begins. Perhaps their company offers an unexpected transfer to a coastal city. Perhaps they meet someone who knows of a house, sitting opportunity in exactly the kind of home they imagined. Perhaps they inherit money from an unexpected source. Perhaps they get a promotion with a raise that makes the home affordable. Perhaps a friend invites them to co-own a beach property. The how can manifest through infinite possible pathways. Your job is not to figure out which pathway will open. Your job is to assume the end and trust that the perfect bridge will appear. Neville emphasized that you must not limit the means through which your desire can come. Do not assume it must happen in a specific way. Do not insist it must come through a particular person or circumstance. Do not try to control the bridge of incidents. Simply assume the end result and remain open to all possibilities. The moment you fixate on how something must happen, you limit the infinite intelligence of consciousness. You try to force one narrow pathway when consciousness might have a far better, easier, more delightful pathway planned. This teaching requires tremendous faith and surrender. It requires you to trust that consciousness knows better than your logical mind. It requires you to let go of control and allow things to unfold organically. This is difficult for most people because we are conditioned to believe we must make things happen through effort and planning. But Neville taught that effort and planning from a state of lack only creates more lack. Assumption from a state of fulfillment creates the effortless bridge to manifestation. The bridge of incidents often surprises you. It rarely looks like what you expected. Looking back after your desires manifested, you can see the perfect chain of events that led from assumption to fulfillment. But while you are in the middle of it, each incident often seems random or even contrary to what you want. This is why you must persist in your assumption regardless of what appears to be happening. Trust the process. Trust consciousness. Trust that every incident, even those that seem negative, is part of the perfect bridge being built. Neville told many stories where the bridge of incidents seemed to go in completely the wrong direction before ultimately leading to the desired end. Someone assumes a promotion and then gets fired from their job, but that firing leads them to a better company where they receive an even bigger promotion. Someone assumes marriage and their current relationship ends painfully, but that ending allows them to meet their true life partner. The incidents that seemed like failures were actually necessary parts of the bridge leading to the fulfillment of their assumption. This is why Neville taught that you should never judge by appearances. Do not assume something has failed just because you do not yet see your desired result. Do not abandon your assumption just because circumstances seem to contradict it. The bridge is being built beneath the surface. Events are being orchestrated in ways you cannot see. People are being moved into position. Opportunities are being created. All of it is happening to bring your assumption into manifestation. Your job is simply to maintain your assumption and allow the bridge to complete itself. Tonight, release your need to know how your desires will manifest. Release your attempts to control the pathway. Release your insistence that things must happen in a certain way. Simply assume your wish fulfilled. Feel it real, occupy that state, and then surrender the how to the infinite intelligence of consciousness. Trust that the perfect bridge of incidents is already being constructed. Trust that every event in your life from this moment forward is leading you toward your assumed end. You do not need to see the entire bridge. You only need to take the next step that presents itself, knowing that each step is perfectly orchestrated. The bridge is building itself. Your manifestation is on its way. Simply maintain your assumption and allow the law to work. It is already working. It has always been working. You are safe. You are guided. The bridge is sure. Trust and rest. The difference between those who successfully manifest their desires and those who give up in frustration often comes down to one word: persistence. Neville Goddard taught that persistence in your assumption, maintaining your inner conviction despite outer appearances, is absolutely essential to manifestation. Many people assume their wish fulfilled for a few days or even a few hours, but when they do not see immediate results, when their circumstances do not change overnight, when their three-dimensional world continues to look the same, they abandon their assumption. They return to their old state of lack, and in doing so, they guarantee that their desire will never manifest. Persistence means remaining faithful to your assumption regardless of what your physical senses report. It means maintaining your inner conviction even when every external circumstance seems to contradict it. It means continuing to feel your wish fulfilled even when your bank account says you are broke, even when your body says you are sick, even when your relationship status says you are alone. This is not denial of reality. This is understanding that your assumption is the true reality, and your circumstances are just the temporary reflection of your old assumption still playing out in time. Neville often quoted the biblical verse, "Without faith, it is impossible to please God." But he gave this a radically different interpretation than traditional religion. He taught that God is your own consciousness, your own I am. Faith is not belief in an external deity. Faith is loyalty to your own assumption. To have faith means to remain faithful to the state you have assumed, to continue feeling it real even when you see no evidence, to persist in occupying that consciousness despite all appearances to the contrary. This faith is what brings your assumption into manifestation. Most people have faith backward. They have tremendous faith in the reality of their problems. They believe completely in their lack, their limitations, their obstacles. They give more reality to what they do not want than to what they do want. They look at their circumstances and say, "This is real. This is true. This is what is actually happening." And because they have such strong faith in their unwanted conditions, those conditions persist and even worsen. Their faith in the wrong things keeps creating the wrong things. Neville taught that you must transfer your faith from circumstances to consciousness. You must have more faith in your assumption than in your current reality. When evidence of lack appears, you must have faith that abundance is still coming. When symptoms persist, you must have faith that health is already yours in consciousness. When delays occur, you must have faith that your manifestation is on its way. This faith is not hope or wishful thinking. This is knowing. This is unshakable inner conviction that what you've assumed must manifest because consciousness creates reality. The story of Abraham in the Bible illustrates this principle perfectly according to Neville's interpretation. Abraham was promised by God that he would be the father of many nations, but he and his wife Sarah were very old, well past childbearing years. The physical evidence said it was impossible. Every logical consideration said it would never happen. But Abraham had faith. He believed the promise despite all appearances. He assumed he would have a son even though it seemed ridiculous. And eventually, against all odds, Sarah conceived and bore Isaac. Abraham's faith, his persistence in his assumption, despite contrary evidence, brought the manifestation. You're being tested in the same way right now. You have assumed something you desire, but your circumstances have not changed yet. Your senses tell you it is not happening. Your logical mind says it is impossible. Your friends might tell you to be realistic and give up. This is the test of faith. Will you persist in your assumption? Will you remain loyal to your inner conviction? Or will you abandon your desired state and return to the assumption of lack because you do not see immediate results? Neville taught that time lag between assumption and manifestation is one of the greatest challenges people face. We assume something today and expect it to manifest tomorrow, but consciousness operates outside of time. Your assumption is already a present fact in the fourth dimension of imagination. The three-dimensional world simply takes time to reflect that inner fact. The seed you plant does not become a tree overnight. But the tree is already certain the moment the seed is planted. Your manifestation is already certain the moment you assume it. You simply must persist until the time lag closes and the outer catches up to the inner. How do you maintain persistence when everything around you contradicts your assumption? Neville gave specific guidance on this. First, do not share your assumption with others unless they are supportive and understand the law. Most people will doubt you, discourage you, and reinforce your old state. Their disbelief can shake your own conviction if you are not careful. Keep your assumptions sacred and private. Protect it like a precious seed that must not be disturbed while it grows. Second, practice selective attention. Do not give energy and focus to evidence that contradicts your assumption. If you assume wealth and you receive a bill, do not obsess over the bill. Pay it if you can, ignore it if you cannot. But do not let it disturb your assumption of abundance. If you assume health and symptoms appear, acknowledge them minimally, but return your attention to the feeling of health. What you focus on expands. Focus on your assumption, not on contrary evidence. Third, return to your assumption daily, especially in the state just before sleep. This is when your subconscious is most receptive. Revive the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Re-enter that state. Strengthen your conviction. Make it more real, more natural, more familiar. The more you return to it, the more it becomes your dominant state, and the faster it manifests. Fourth, live from the end in small ways throughout your day. If you assume you are successful, how would a successful person handle this situation? If you assume you are loved, how would a loved person respond here? If you assume you are confident, how would a confident person move through this moment? Act from your assumption. Think from your assumption. Speak from your assumption. This reinforces the state and accelerates manifestation. Faith and persistence are not about effort or strain. They are about remaining in a state. When you truly assume something, persistence becomes natural. You're not trying to believe. You simply do believe. You're not forcing yourself to have faith. Faith is the natural result of accepting something as true. The challenge is to assume so completely, so deeply, that persistence becomes effortless because you cannot imagine any other reality than the one you have assumed. Tonight, as you rest deeply in this relaxed state, I want you to make a commitment to persistence. Choose your assumption, feel it real, and commit to remaining faithful to this assumption no matter what happens in your external world. Commit to returning to this feeling every night before sleep. Commit to living from this state. Commit to selective attention that focuses on your assumption rather than contrary evidence. Commit to protecting your assumption from doubters and critics. Commit to patience as the time lag between assumption and manifestation closes. This commitment is your faith. This persistence is what brings your desire from consciousness into fact. You've assumed your wish fulfilled. Now persist until you see it. The manifestation is certain. Time is the only variable. Persist. Remain faithful. Trust the law. It is working even when you cannot see it. Your persistence will be rewarded. Your faith will bring the harvest. Stay true to your assumption and watch it bloom into your lived reality. We have journeyed deep into the teachings of Neville Goddard tonight. You have learned about assumption as the creative force of consciousness. You have explored the power of I am. You've discovered living in the end and the primacy of feeling. You've understood revision and the bridge of incidents. You've examined specific applications to relationships, wealth, and health. You have grasped the necessity of the Sabbath rest and the power of persistence. Now it is time to integrate all of these teachings into one coherent understanding. It is time to embody this wisdom so completely that it becomes your natural way of being rather than a technique you apply. Integration means bringing together all the pieces into a unified whole. Every teaching Neville shared points to the same central truth expressed in different ways. You are consciousness. Consciousness is the only reality. Your assumptions create your experience. When you change your consciousness, you change your world. This is not philosophy or metaphysics. This is the fundamental structure of existence. You're not a small, limited, powerless being at the mercy of external forces. Your infinite creative consciousness temporarily focused in this particular point of view, creating your unique reality through the assumptions you hold about yourself and your world. Embodiment means living this truth rather than just knowing it intellectually. Many people understand the law of assumption conceptually. They can explain it, they can teach it, but they do not embody it. They do not actually live from the assumption of being the person they wish to be. There is a gap between their understanding and their experience. Tonight we are closing that gap. You're not just learning about the law of assumption, you're becoming someone who naturally assumes their desired states. You are integrating this wisdom into the core of your being. To embody the law of assumption means to make it your automatic response to life. When challenges arise, you automatically assume the best outcome. When opportunities appear, you automatically assume you are worthy and capable. When desires emerge, you automatically assume their fulfillment. This is not something you have to think about or work at. It becomes as natural as breathing. You have retrained your consciousness to create from intention rather than react to circumstances. Think about who you have been up until this moment. You have been someone with certain beliefs about yourself. You have been someone with certain assumptions about what is possible for you. You have been someone living from a particular state of consciousness, and your life has perfectly reflected that state. Everything you have experienced, every relationship, every financial situation, every health condition, every success and every failure has flowed from your assumptions about yourself. You have been the creator all along, but you have been creating unconsciously, randomly, from old conditioning rather than from deliberate intention. Tonight, you are becoming someone new. You're becoming someone who consciously assumes their desired states. You're becoming someone who lives from the end. You're becoming someone who creates deliberately rather than accidentally. This is not a small shift. This is a complete transformation of your relationship to reality. You are claiming your power as a conscious creator. You're stepping into your birthright as infinite consciousness, expressing through this temporary human form. To support this integration and embodiment, I want you to create a new identity for yourself right now. Not an identity based on your past, not an identity based on your current circumstances, an identity based on your fulfilled desires. Who are you when everything you want has manifested? What kind of person are you? What do you believe about yourself? What do you assume is true about your capabilities, your worth, your place in the world? Build this identity clearly in your imagination. Are you someone who is financially free? Then you are generous, confident about money, making decisions from abundance. Are you someone who is deeply loved? Then you are open-hearted, trusting, comfortable with intimacy. Are you someone who is radiantly healthy? Then you are vital, energetic, confident in your body. Are you someone who is successful in your career? Then you are talented, recognized, creating value. Build the identity that matches your fulfilled desires. Make it specific. Make it real. Make it you. Now, here is the key to embodiment. You must begin being this person now. Not when circumstances change, not when evidence appears, not when other people recognize you differently. Now, in consciousness, which is the only reality that matters, you're already this person. Your outer world is just catching up. But you do not wait for the outer world to change before you occupy your new identity. You occupy your new identity now, and the outer world must change to match it. This is living from the end. This is assumption embodied. How does this new version of you think? Adopt those thought patterns now. How does this person feel? Generate those feelings now. How does this person move through the world? Carry yourself that way now. How does this person make decisions? Decide from that state now. How does this person relate to others? Interact from that consciousness now. You are not pretending to be someone you are not. You are claiming the identity that is already yours in consciousness. You're simply allowing your three-dimensional experience to catch up to your four-dimensional reality. This embodiment practice continues beyond tonight. Every morning when you wake, remind yourself who you are, not who you used to be, not who circumstances currently suggest you are, who you have assumed yourself to be. Occupy that state, think from it, feel from it, act from it. Every night before sleep, return to this identity. Feel yourself as this person. Fall asleep in this assumption. Let it deepen and strengthen with each passing day. You will face moments of doubt. Your old identity will try to reassert itself. Your circumstances will sometimes contradict your assumption. This is normal. This is the time lag between inner change and outer reflection. Do not be disturbed by it. Simply notice the doubt. Acknowledge the contradiction and return to your assumption. Gently but firmly occupy your desired state again. Each time you do this, you strengthen the new identity and weaken the old one. Eventually, the new identity becomes so natural, so automatic, so embodied, that the old one cannot even arise anymore. Neville taught that you can know you have truly assumed a new state when it feels completely natural. There is no effort. There is no strain. You're not trying to be someone. You simply are someone. Your new identity has become your lived reality. Your assumption has hardened into fact in consciousness. And when it has hardened into fact in consciousness, it must manifest in physical experience. This is the promise. This is the law. Tonight, you are integrating everything you have learned into one powerful realization. Your consciousness creating reality through assumption. And tonight, you are embodying a new assumption about yourself. You're becoming the person who already has what you desire. You're occupying that state fully. You're living from the end. As you drift deeper into sleep, this new identity is being impressed upon your subconscious mind. It is becoming part of you. Tomorrow you will wake as someone new, someone who naturally assumes they're good, someone who lives from their fulfilled desires, someone who creates consciously rather than accidentally. This is who you are becoming. This is who you already are in consciousness. Now you are simply allowing it to be revealed in your experience. And so we come to the completion of this journey through the profound teachings of Neville Goddard. You've travelled from relaxation into deep understanding. You've explored the mechanics of consciousness. You've discovered your power to create reality through assumption. You have learned practical techniques and profound principles. You have integrated this wisdom into a new way of being. Now it is time to release everything into sleep and allow your subconscious mind to do its perfect work throughout the night. As you rest here in this deeply peaceful state, your conscious mind is becoming quieter and quieter. Your analytical thinking is fading into the background. Your defenses are dissolving. Your skepticism is melting away. You are entering that drowsy, hypnagogic state that Neville taught is the most powerful time for impression upon the subconscious. This is the golden moment. This is when your assumptions are most easily accepted and impressed as fact upon the deeper levels of your being. Everything you have heard tonight has been planting seeds in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. You may not remember every word when you wake. You may not consciously recall every teaching, but your subconscious has absorbed it all. Every principle, every example, every technique. It is all there, working beneath your conscious awareness, transforming your consciousness from within, reshaping your assumptions, elevating your state, preparing you to create a completely new reality. I want you to return now to your specific desire, the wish you identified at the beginning of this session. Bring it gently into your awareness one final time. But now, you're not thinking about this desire. You're not visualizing it from a distance. You're not hoping for it or wishing for it. You're assuming it is already yours. You're occupying the state of already having it. You're being the person for whom this desire is a present fact. Feel that state. Find that feeling of fulfillment. Rest in that quiet satisfaction of completion. You are wealthy. You are loved. You are healthy. You are successful. You are free. You are whole. Whatever your specific desire is, you are it. You have it. You embody it. This is not future. This is now. In consciousness, which is the only reality, your wish is already fulfilled. Your three-dimensional world is simply a shadow that must eventually conform to the substance of your consciousness. The manifestation is certain. The only question is time. And even time is an illusion of the three-dimensional world. In consciousness, it is done. It is finished. It is yours. As you feel this deeply, as you rest in this assumption, notice how your entire being relaxes into it. There is no more striving, no more trying, no more effort. You have arrived. Not someday. Now. In the dimension that matters most, you've already received everything you desire. Your job is simply to remain in this state, to persist in this assumption, to live from this end until the shadow catches up to the substance and your outer world reflects your inner reality. I'm going to count backward now from 10 to 1. With each number you will drift deeper into sleep. With each number, your assumption will impress itself more firmly upon your subconscious. With each number, you will release more completely into the knowing that it is done. And by the time I reach 1, you will either be deeply asleep or in such a peaceful, relaxed state that sleep will come naturally and easily within moments. 10. Drifting deeper now into peaceful rest. Your assumption is solid. Your wish is fulfilled in consciousness. 9. Releasing all effort, all trying, all concern. You have assumed your good. It must manifest. 8. feeling yourself sinking into the most comfortable, peaceful sleep. Your subconscious is accepting every assumption you have made tonight. 7. Deeper and deeper into rest. Your old identity is dissolving. Your new identity is emerging. 6. So peaceful now, so relaxed, so certain of your good. 5. Halfway to sleep, halfway to the complete surrender into your assumption. 4. Almost there, almost completely at rest in the knowledge that it is done. 3. Drifting, floating, releasing into sleep. 2. Your last conscious thoughts are of the wish fulfilled, the assumption accepted, the manifestation certain. 1. Sleep now. Deep, peaceful, transformative sleep. As you sleep tonight, your subconscious mind will work with everything you have learned and experienced in this session. It will reorganize your consciousness. It will strengthen your new assumptions. It will dissolve old limiting beliefs. It will prepare the bridge of incidents that will manifest your desires in your waking reality. You need do nothing. You need control nothing. You simply sleep and let the law do its perfect work. When you wake tomorrow morning, you will wake as someone new. You will wake as someone who understands the law of assumption. You will wake as someone who knows how to consciously create reality. You will wake as someone who has claimed their power. You will wake as the person who already has what they desire. And from that state, from that assumption, from that consciousness, your entire life will begin to transform. Your outer circumstances will shift to match your inner state. Opportunities will appear. Doors will open. People will respond to you differently. Money will flow more easily. Health will improve. Relationships will transform. Success will come naturally. Not because you are trying to make these things happen, but because you have assumed a new state of consciousness, and your outer world must conform to that inner state. This is law. This is how reality works. You are beginning to live this truth. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. Sleep in the absolute certainty that you are consciousness itself, creating your reality through your assumptions, and that what you have assumed tonight must manifest in your experience. There is nothing to do. There is nothing to force. There is only the peaceful rest of knowing it is done. Your wish is fulfilled in consciousness. Your assumption is fact. Your manifestation is certain. Sleep now in that knowledge. Sleep as the person you have claimed to be. Sleep in your fulfilled desires, and wake tomorrow to watch your inner assumption bloom into outer manifestation. It is done. It is finished. Rest now. Sleep. Let go completely. Trust the law. Trust yourself. Trust consciousness. All is well. All is perfect. All is unfolding exactly as it should. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. Sleep in the certainty of your fulfilled desires. Good night.